All right, Bill, you're live.
All right. Well, hello, guys. Welcome. It is good to see you. Hopefully, you're here to learn about Google Cultural Institute. Yes? Is there nodding? Awesome. Sounds good. So, very quick introduction. I'm Bill Selak. It's nice to see you guys. I'm over here on the left coast, up in the Silicon Valley. So, I'm the Director of Technology at Hillbrook School. If you want to learn more, hillbrook.org. We're doing some really cool stuff. I've also taught elementary school. I teach big kids in graduate classes, and I am a Google certified teacher. So enough about me. You guys are here to learn about Google Cultural Institute. So if you want to follow along, there are two places you can go to. My presentation is eduawesome.com/Google Cultural Institute. The other place is just to go to google.com. Have you guys heard of this? All right, google.com/Cultural Institute. And that will get you to the Google Cultural Institute. So we can go through, I actually have a Prezi. If you haven't used Prezi, I'm not surprised because they used to be super cool and they're not as much anymore. But it's perfect for this because I think once you can wrap your head around what the Google Cultural Institute is about, then you're like, oh, okay, I totally get that. I just didn't know that's what it is. So I'm going to just walk you guys through the Google Cultural Institute, point out a couple things that you might not notice the first time around, and then also point out a couple of different ways you can actually use it with students. So any questions before we jump in? You guys are good? Awesome. Good. You're acting like it's early. It's early for me. It's not so early for you guys. So if you're not there yet, hop over to google.com/Cultural Institute, and we're just going to click through some stuff together. So if you're on my presentation, you'll notice there are three big parts to the Cultural Institute. We have Art Project, we have Historic Moments, and we have World Wonders. I'm going to share my screen so that you can see what's going on as well. And share my screen. Let's try that a third time. Please share my screen. Awesome. My screen is shared. So there are three parts. Back in the day, if you know about this, Art Project was most of what this was. Then one day, when you typed in, no, get back up there. When you typed in googleartproject.com, suddenly it took you to this thing called the Google Cultural Institute. But of all the three parts, Art Project is by far the biggest and probably easiest to use with your students. So a lot of these, in Google Art Project, there are these headings that are pretty typical and common and overlap between all three of them. So the first one I want to jump into is collections. So if you've wanted to go to a museum and you've never been able to go to a museum, you can now go to many museums. There's hundreds of museums, and what I love about clicking on the Collections tab is that you can actually take the Google Street View technology, and they did that in museums. So if you wanted to go to Art Institute of Chicago, like this little screenshot, you can, and you can actually click over here and go into that hallway, and it's like the same exact technology from Street View, only it's called Museum View. So that's amazing. One thing that could be really cool if you are actually going to an actual museum with students, I'm not sure if you guys actually still do field trips, but if you do, you could like pre-go to the museum. You can give students assignments where they have to kind of learn a little bit about the museum and get a feel for it. So then when they're there, it's not, oh, this is a cool place. It's, I've already been here before. Here's what I want to see. That would be amazing, right? Over here, you even get, instead of a map of the world, you get a map of Street View. So the next way you can look at Art Project is sorting by artist. So hopefully you guys are clicking along with me as I'm going through this. And you're kind of half listening to me, half clicking on stuff, which I think is the best way to learn about Google Art Project. So I happened to find Monet because I've seen a couple of his paintings and I was curious what they look like on the internet. And they look amazing. Once you click on an artist, though, you get all these other different ways that you can filter down all their different pieces of work. So if you're like, oh, I like early Monet, which actually I don't even know what that means, you can click on date and look at just his early stuff. I'll click on date and look at like the last piece that he ever painted before he died. You can also sort by place. So if you're like, oh, I heard Monet did some really cool stuff in Boston, then you can click on place and then sort by Boston, and you'd only see the Monet paintings that he painted in Boston. But I don't know that he did that. I'm not big on the history. Did he ever go to Boston? No? All right. That joke was funnier than you guys acted. You got to give me a little more than that. Come on now. The other way that you can actually sort art project, we're still on art project, is if you click on artworks, you can refine your search, not just by artist, but by all this other stuff. So all these different categories, like place I just talked about with that not funny joke, media type, created by a collection, but medium is actually one of the more interesting ways to sort through art project. And here's where you get some ideas cross-curricularly that you might not think, oh, you know, art, whatever, art doesn't tie in with science. But if you're studying about rope or, you know, strength of something or other with science and physics, can you tell that I don't teach physics? You can sort and then find rope, and there's actually 7 pieces of art that are made featuring rope. So if you take just a little bit of time to kind of think about art project when you're doing any lesson, it's actually surprisingly easy to tie in all those different pieces of art with whatever lesson you happen to be doing. And there's even different medium, cotton. Like there's art that has cotton and rope, and if you keep clicking on medium, it'll keep refining it. So if you want to find like rope and pencil, there's actually a piece of art that's done with rope and pencil. So this will do an and search for you. You can really narrow it down, even if you don't know anything about art. You can find a piece of art that has rope and pencil. So who would have known? That exists, and you can look at it and study the artist, tie it in with whatever lesson you happen to be doing. But I think the real power of art project is that students can curate their own content. So as you're clicking around, there's a circle with a plus in the middle. When you click on that, it saves it as kind of an ad hoc gallery. It's called a temporary gallery. You can take all those things that you click that little plus button on and either get rid of them or actually save them as a gallery. You can make this public or make it a private gallery. You can share it with people like teachers or not. But Art Project makes it so easy to create a gallery based on anything. So instead of just lecturing at students about pointillism, give them a super quick overview and have them make their own gallery on pointillism. Or give them a more abstract lesson with something with physics and then make them actually go through Art Project and curate pieces of art that demonstrate this one property of physics, like Newton's second law of motion or something. Show me an art gallery that demonstrates this. So students are able to actually go through and, if we think like Bloom's taxonomy, this is actually pretty high up there. If we're thinking SAMR model, same thing. Like you're not going to be able to go through in real life and grab these different pieces of art or travel around the world and take pictures of this art and be like, look, Newton's second law of motion. This is actually a really powerful way of having students get to that higher ordered thinking, and it's fun. It's actually surprisingly awesome. So are you guys clicking through this? Are you looking at the user gallery now? Yeah? Good times? Questions so far about Art Project? All right, well that's about half of it, and that's good because about half of our time is up. So most of what you're going to be doing is going to be with Art Project. All right, so far we've only talked about Art Project. The second thing I want to talk with you guys about is World Wonders. So similarly, there's going to be 3 different categories there. The first one is locations. Now what's really cool about this is it'll take kind of a street view technology, but from around the world. So here are all the different locations of World Wonders. And as if we take just a step back and look at Art Project, it was that little plus button in a circle where you can save different pieces of art. There's that same thing going on in World Wonders. So at the bottom of the page in World Wonders, it shows you what you saved. So it doesn't have to be just pieces of art. it can also be locations. So that's a pretty significant difference between just Google Maps and Google Art Project locations.
I have a question.
Yes, jump on in.
You're saying you can curate your own by hitting a plus and a circle.
Uh-huh.
Can you do that on an iPad or?
It depends. The short answer is no.
Okay.
So I'd imagine as time goes on, it'll become more and more iPad friendly, but a lot of the powerful parts of Art Project is really digging down into it and hitting that. I don't know, I haven't tried it. If someone can try it, just feel free to interrupt me at any point and say, yes, it works, or no, it doesn't work. That's actually a good question, because this school has one-to-one iPads, and it would be great to be able to do this, but I haven't even looked into that. So thanks for asking. The next thing you can do, once you click on Explore, is take a look at places.
It's right here.
So this walks you through, you can look at the same sort of idea. You get all these different categories or attributes, where you can look at media type or events, collections, but places is really powerful. There aren't a lot of them, but once you kind of narrow it down, there's a surprising amount of power that you get that are kind of these curated collections for you. So if you wanted, I don't know how I happened here, but my little screenshot was on the Hiroshima Peace Memorial. That would be kind of a hard thing to do a Google search on. But by jumping into World Wonders inside of the Cultural Institute, suddenly there's 26 different items that I can look at and get a much better feel for. And I know if they're in the Cultural Institute that they're going to be high quality, and I know that I'm going to be able to use them. It's not just a random Google search where the pictures I find I'm probably not allowed to use. And again, you get that little plus sign to share and build your collection or curate your content within places. And then there's actually just Street View. Depending on how you look at World Wonders, Street View shows up in other places, but it actually shows up as a collection. It's called Street View, and walks you through places that typically don't have Street View. So this screenshot is just United States, and it's just Street View, but it walks you through these places that you would never be able to find, like Yosemite. Depending on where you're going, there isn't Street View in different parts of Yosemite, but there is here. So if you've ever thought, oh man, I wish they had Street View for whatever it happens to be, maybe they do, it's just not in Google Maps. So take a look at World Wonders if you can't find Street View and you wish you could. One of my friends, Nicole Delasio, you might know her on the Twitters as Magrella Canella. She does amazing things with her fourth graders with the Google Cultural Institute. This is a way that she actually scaffolded her learning. They had to go through and click through a couple different things in World Wonders and a couple different things inside of Art Project. There were a handful of students that are like, I'm done, and the rest of the class was so far behind. So she said, all right, create a collaborative Google document and give me 2 categories. Now, fourth grade, if you don't know in California, and I can't imagine that you would, is all about California history and social studies in California. So her 2 categories are places you've been in California and places you want to go. The students had to go through the Google Cultural Institute and find where they've been and then share a link to that. So if they were on Street View, the powerful thing is that wherever they happen to be clicking on Street View, when you copy that URL, it'll take you to that exact part. So if you look at example 1 of places I want to go, the Salton Sea, it actually takes you through exactly what that student was looking at. So I actually had a pretty good feel for who these students were and their personalities, and I had never met them because that specific view that they chose told a lot about them and explained a lot of their thinking. Because they're like, all right, I want the camera to be here, not there. So it's almost like they curated like a photograph, and it's just a really simple Google document. So maybe this is something that you don't do with your students whole class, but it's a great way to scaffold content, and it's a cool thing to throw to a student that always finishes stuff early, right? So that's world wonders. The final thing I want to throw at you is historic moments. If you're a history person, obviously this is going to be huge. If you are not, this is actually still surprisingly powerful. So there's going to be a couple different headings in historic moments. The first one is called moments. My favorite one, the first one I really jumped into, is on D-Day. So if you just search for it, you can click along and look at this one. But what you get that you don't get with typical web pages is it scrolls left to right. So it behaves kind of as a timeline. This thing right in the middle has all these different sized rectangles. It starts at the beginning and makes its way from left to right. So the first thing it gives you is a super cool visual of what this historic moment looks like, but it actually walks you through it in almost like a Ken Burns style documentary, where it has some text, some pictures, some images that are letters, some images that are actually photographs, and there's, if they have it, video that's built into these historic moments. So all you need to do is click right, and it walks you through it. Most of it's text. Like the only thing that's missing for being a Ken Burns documentary is Ken Burns reading it. But it's such a powerful way to dive deep into a historic moment, and me being someone that actually doesn't really care about history, actually cares about history when it's delivered this way. It's really, really cool. So even just as an adult, you know, just check out historic moments, and it's really cool stuff. The next thing that you might miss inside of historic moments is called collections. And this walks you through important historical stuff, like the Eiffel Tower, right? So there's street view technology on the Eiffel Tower. I actually went to Paris and saw the Eiffel Tower, but didn't want to pay like $10 to go up and visit it, which is kind of ridiculous right now looking back. Like, dude, I paid that for breakfast at Starbucks. But now I actually get to see what it looks like to be on the Eiffel Tower, and if you can't see it in the screenshot, it actually shows you the different levels. So I don't speak French, I don't know what the levels mean, but some are higher and some are lower, and there's street view of every level of the Eiffel Tower. And there's little gems like this all over collections inside of historic moments. If you click on Explore and actually kind of drill down and start searching for stuff, there's all these different ways, again, that you can sort all the different items, all these different attributes and categories. But one that blew me away is video. So when I think video, I think of YouTube. I don't know if you guys do. I'm assuming yes. But YouTube is not great for historic video. So then what's the next step? All right, you know, maybe Discovery Education, but then that's usually just videos that they make. You know, just where do you find older videos? Here's where you find videos about historic stuff. You drill down, go to historic moments, and then you refine your search so that you're only searching videos. And these videos are just absolutely fantastic. I can't say enough good things about these videos. And even though I've presented on this, I always forget that videos are in the Google Cultural Institute just because they're kind of hidden. You know, it's one of those places where it's not your first go-to, but you know, like if you bookmark it, leave yourself a note, tweet it out, do something now. Hopefully, when the time comes, when the student's like, you know, is there a video of someone? You know, here are all these cool examples. A video of someone that survived the Holocaust. As a matter of fact, there is. Let's jump into Google Cultural Institute and do a quick search for refining videos, historic moments, and you'll find it, and it will be amazing, and you'll be the hero, and they'll say, "I can't believe you found that. That's amazing." So that is the insanely fast overview of Google Cultural Institute. It's one of those things that if you understand kind of how it's organized, you're able to dive a lot deeper into it, understand a lot more of it, and hopefully have a better feel for what it is. So I have 1 minute left. Did anyone find out the answer to iPad? Can you curate stuff on the iPad?
You can. You have to be logged into your Google account.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you.
So will students only be able to add something to a gallery if they have a Google email address?
No, I just updated.
In order to save it, you need to have a Google account. So kind of the workaround of that would be you just have a class Google account, and they would all just be logged into it working on it.
Okay. Thank you.
Any last questions or thoughts? All right. Well, awesome. Thank you guys for joining me.